Let's go. Nick, do you ever say something on the podcast in the good faith, like with the good intentions, but then you realize, oh, it could be taken wrong way, or you may upset some people?
I think it's impossible to do these kind of podcasts without saying something at some point that you kind of wish that you said differently. Like, I think that's just going to happen. And to be honest with you, I just kind of accept it as part of the format. And I usually I don't tend to edit out. I just tend to get on with it.
All right, because, like I'm just stepping into it, and we were talking in a previous episode about learning new skills, etc., etc. And I'm learning that on the job, right? So funny thing that Russell Brunson, he said, like, if you want to, be someone in your profession, then you should definitely start your own show or just go out there, which I agree with, because what I said, like, multiple occasions, that we should discuss things, or the only answer to the bad training is better training. So we should go out there and, tell how we train the dogs or what we think. But what he said, that at the beginning you will suck at this, which I kind of accepted, that it's going to take me some time till I will kind of learn the craft. But he also said that it's not a problem because nobody will listen to that anyway. And this is where I went wrong, because after my first ever podcast in English language, more people listened than I ever imagined, and some of them, they just didn't really understand what I meant, or maybe I didn't phrase the things in the correct way, because I like this like format, because we can explain things in bigger detail. However, I caught myself like saying things that if you are not my friend, you may not, you might be upset. So the thing that I thought is, like, I have to phrase things better, and then you are my podcasting mentor, of course, and I'm learning from you this format. But also, the listeners will have to forgive me if I fuck up, and probably I will fuck up plenty of times with. So don't get upset. All of the dog trainers that they wanna be good at the craft, they should do boarding and training or residential training at least for a while. And that was something what stuck in your mind, and you wanna discuss that a little bit more.
Well, not in a negative way. I just thought it would be interesting to do a podcast on, because I think that residential training, board and trains, are still something that are actually can be quite controversial. A lot of people don't like the idea of it, or they associate it with certain things, and they advise people not to use them. So I thought that would be an interesting conversation for a podcast.
Yeah. When I was preparing for this podcast, I asked my team what is the stigma behind residential training, because a lot of trainers that I hang out with, and this is my company, we do residential training, so maybe I don't hear those voices, right, that are against.
What's the name of your company again, Alex?
Pardon?
What's the name of your company again?
Do we do auto promotion? Temperament Dogs, more than residential training. Book your stay today. Yeah. So I wasn't entirely aware that it's so controversial. As I mentioned before, on multiple occasions, I don't really read Facebook where all the drama is happening, so I may not be aware. But what would you say? What is controversial about the residential stay?
Okay, let's go through this then. I think one of the claims I hear people make a lot is, or the mindset a lot of people think about residential training is, hey, that person's probably doing residential training because their training is really abusive and they can't do it in front of the dog owner. So they do residential where they can be really horrible to the dog, and the owner isn't going to see how they've achieved what they've achieved.
Of course, like I'm gonna be kind of giving count arguments over here because this is my fucking business, right? But also, you know, so that makes a lot of sense. So I don't want to be, you know, like my truth versus your truth and just, you know, give you counter arguments because that might be the case.
Hold
so
up as well. This is not my opinion.
Okay,
I'm just relaying what people say, you know?
Yeah. So one thing is that it probably happened, right? But I'm not asking anyone be that person. Like for the dog trainers that they want to improve their skills or sharpen their skills and get better at things, I think it's a very good experience to put yourself into customers' shoes. Is that like good phrase? We say that in Polish.
Yeah.
I don't know if I translated it again.
That's totally fine.
Yeah. So because very often we have those ideas about what works and what doesn't work, and we don't appreciate the lifestyle of the customer or the skill level of the customer. So my message is, don't do it this way. Do it like correct way. So don't be abusive to the dog behind the customer's back, right? And train the dog how you wish. How would you do with the customer? But I think, you know, that is just making clear or making your mind what is working on what is possible to apply for the customer, because very often we think, okay, that's gonna work, and we are giving this advice, but it's, you know, a little bit not practical. I interviewed one trainer that wanted to join my team, and then I asked, like, okay, we've got the customer, the dog is pulling on the lead, what would you advise, right? And this and that method, right? But I'm saying, okay, but the guy has to go to the work, right? So basically the answer was to put like several footballs on the way to the park, so the dog stops on every, right? And therefore is not pulling on the lead as a management. And I'm like, I wouldn't be able to do that, right?
I'm confused. So you walk the route ahead of time and then you like place footballs.
Yeah. And, you know, I am 100% sure that trainer had very good intentions, right? It wasn't something that like, I'm going to make your life harder.
It's the sort of thing I would have probably answered when I was less experienced. I probably would have come up with something like that.
Yeah. So, you know, it's a good intention, but, you know, try to do it, right? Maybe you have to be at 9 for your job, and you have a child you have to drop to school, and then you have to come 20 minutes later, set up those footballs, right? Fuck knows how far you have to go. So, and then pray so the neighbor's cat will not like show up, eat your food, like for your dog. But it was like, this is a very extreme example, but this is one of the things that, you know, I hear that from the dog trainers quite a lot. Oh, those people, they don't do whatever I'm asking them to do, and they are like terrible at handling and where very often I hear very unpractical advices. They make total sense on paper. Right, but to apply that in everyday life for, you know, duration of the life of the dog or duration of training, it would be close to impossible. I had another experience where there was like the dog trainer, she had reactive dog, and then she got that training program from a very famous trainer, and everything made sense. However, it's like the dog was reactive to people. So she had to find like 10 people that the dog knows, then 10 people that the dog doesn't know, and then another 10, and then take them like another place, etc., etc. I counted out like 200 people to fucking find. Where, according to Dunbar's number, I don't remember, I don't want to butcher that up, like we can have like meaningful relationship with 100 something people.
This isn't Ian Dunbar, by the way.
No, not Ian Dunbar. There is Dunbar's number. I should have know that.
I know what
Like,
you mean.
That we can, like, our brain capacity allows us to have like
There's like
interaction.
acquaintances as well. Those aren't even like close friends, you know?
Yeah. So training, like having those dogs, different breeds, you know, will first of all will tell you what's working and what is not working, but also will allow you to kind of put yourself like in the customer's shoes, and then, you know, like the level of management that you can put in, etc., right? So I think it's a very good experience, because like right now because I was doing residential stays, I think like about 10 years, right? But right now I can imagine if I have like one-to-one sessions that, okay, that might be very difficult to implement, or with that dog, it's not gonna work. I have to go other way because I've been there. I did that and it didn't work. So it's like very, very good experience, right? And then, you know, look, you can take the dogs from the rescue and foster them and train them. So it's not necessarily that you have to deliver results to your client that spend a lot of money on your training, right? On the other side, I get the worry about abuse, right? Because you are not there with the dog. However, you know, like you will have to leave the dog somewhere at some point. You will go for holidays, you will live in the boarding kennels or in the home boarding establishment, right? You will take your dog to the groomers, you will take your dog to the vets. Like all those situations are where you are actually handing your dog to someone that you may not know that well, and it is a risk. From my experience, I was a little bit more relaxed about things like that, but I took my dog to the groomers, and that was like friendly company. So friends of the friends, they were running that company, right? So I was like 100% confident like about everything. And then I left my dog to the groomers. I left, drove back, pick up the dog, and then my dog was never fucking the same.
Wow.
You know, like, and I can tell the difference, right? Came back like more shy to the people. My dog is very sensitive to the handler. So even though, you know, will not be sensitive to the decoy or a helper, you do a lot of protection work, but it's this type of dog that is very sensitive to the handler, right? And if somebody handled him and it was introduced this way, my dog will be very sensitive to that, right? And then, honestly, like he came with, you know, he was more aware of the noises. He was like more aware of like other people pressure, etc. And on the other occasion, I've heard like, you know, when I was like in this area, I've heard like some shouts and, you know, coming from that grooming room. So since then, I'm leaving my dog only with my friends, with Lila or like anyone from my team. And since then, my dog never been to the groomers because I don't know anyone, right? So I get that it is just that will happen in your dog lifetime. You just have to choose wisely. I understand the concern. You just have to choose wisely, and like I said, that's gonna happen sooner or later.
Well,
right?
you have to pick. You have to really, like, maybe more than a lot of services. You have to really trust the person, right? And that's probably helpful to have an understanding about like who they are, like what they believe in, etc. Before you like trust them with your dog.
Yeah, I also think if it goes for training part, I don't. Yeah, it doesn't. You know, like what we had that conversation about what is aversive, but what is abusive, right? For some people, you know, let's say I don't know.
What kind of conversations do you have with people about how you're going to do the training?
So basically how it works with me, I always want to build relationship before the dog stays. I need to know, like, I'm the good trainer for that dog and I'm good trainer for those people, right? And when we have that relationship, we can build trust, or we can decide like, oh, it's not for us, right? And then we don't work together. So ideally I meet people and the dog a couple of times before there would be actual stay. So right now I'm not actually doing it anymore, but I used to do that like this way. And then we can know each other, and then if they trust me, right? And then, they can also like look at the house where the dog will be staying, and so on and so on, right?
Do you do some training on that first meeting or not?
Pardon?
Do you do some training on the first? No, you just talk through it with people.
Like first, if the objective was to bring the dog for a residential stay, I may give some tips. However, I don't train with tips and tricks, right? That's why I like long format podcasts rather than short videos, because I don't have any tricks. I believe in a very good foundation and communication, and it's not, the tricks and tips are not for me. However, the first meeting is just to assess the dog. I just want them to behave like they would behave on their own walk. And I'm looking at the behavior, I'm looking at the relationship, what is working and what is not working. And that's really it. I may give them some advice, but it's not really that I take the dog and,
do any training. But I just imagine that you must get that question a lot, I assume, on that first like session with people. I imagine people are like, they want to know, like, okay, so like, how are you going to go about this? Like, what are you going to do?
So, and after saying it, on occasion, maybe not on occasion, sorry, like I said it wrong. I don't do like training. However, I may take the dog and try to handle the dog if the dog will allow me to do it, right? And then I'm explaining how the training program and what would I do with that dog and all the stages, so on and so on.
That's
right?
what I was trying to get at, yeah.
I don't think it's fair to, there is a point to try to fix something on the first meeting when we can go a little bit slower, and then, like the first stage, especially since I have been training reactive dogs like 99% of the times, right? Like first week is something what I call emotional preparation, right? So I organize my life so the dog is not exposed to the trigger, and the body chemistry can go back to sort of, balance. The dog can recover, and then I'm building relationship. So this is about a week, right? So I can't build that relationship on the day one with the dog, right? So then we go through the setup scenarios, then I'm taking the dog. So there are like a couple of stages, I would say 4 in my reactivity program. But we start with emotional preparation, then we, work in setup scenarios, then I'm taking those skills to the real life world, and then I'm working on generalization and handing the dog over to the customer. So roughly it works this way. And one of the things that I came across was that the residential training doesn't work. Have you heard about that?
Yeah, so that was the second point I was going to make. A lot of people kind of say, well, they say like residential training doesn't work. Your dog's just going to become really good with the trainer, but it's not going to carry over to you because you don't know how to do it.
Okay, there are different stages of training, right? Of building the behavior. And like first one is building the skill and understanding in the dog, right? The second thing is relationship like of the dog with the environment. And the third one is relationship of the dog with the handler. Okay? So if you think about residential stay as a quick fix, this is where we are getting it wrong. Because after I always say residential stay is only 50% of the success, right? and or 50% of the journey. And then at least in temperament, then we work with the owner for however long they need me. I just, like last week, I visited the dog that I used to train in their home environment, and it was 6 months after we finished training. So we want to make sure that the people are supported after the dog is going home. And during residential stay, what you can do, you can build understanding of the behavior. So, for example, we can teach the dog to sit. So this is the skill. Then we can work on the duration. We can teach, we can work to build the habit. Let's say, sit at the door, right? So for the dog, it's not a problem. The dog has a skill. Then we can work on the dog's relationship with the environment. So let's say sit next to other dog, sit next to, I don't know, wherever, right? And of course, during residential stay, the dog is building relationship with me as a handler, right? But this is something what is not automatically translated into the owner. Then the owner has to put the work in order to build that relationship. But two other things are pretty much done for them. And, if you are thinking about the level of management that is required to train the dog very often, especially if you are dealing with the reactivity, most of people, they are not capable to to commit that much. And of course, you can have the argument, if they cannot train their dog, then they don't have a time, they shouldn't be having a dog. But where those dogs gonna go? Right? We need to help them some way. So I think it's a massive head start.
It's so funny you two say that word, because that's exactly what I was thinking when you were explaining it. It's like, it's not a quick fix, but it's a head start.
Yeah, it's a head start. It's like, I compare that it's much easier to keep your weight on the level than lose your weight, right? Or get into the shape. Right? And residential stay is like getting into the shape, and then you just have to maintain it, right? And this is pretty much like analogy how the residential training works. Whoever was coming to me, I was just saying, don't think about that, about the stay as a quick fix. If you think this way, then we are not working together. It's just 50% of the journey. So I can work on skill, I can work on the relationship with the environment and some relationship with the handler, but then we have to work together so you can establish that relationship with the dog. So the dog will also do that in your environment or with you, right? So it is a head start, not a quick fix. And I think we have to be transparent with the owners about that. Right, but like I said, my main point was to for the dog trainers to do that so they can experience different breeds, different dogs, different problems, and they can answer for themselves what is working and what is not working. But also, coming back to the level of skill and commitment, you teach your dog toilet training once, and then it's done. If the dog knows how to sit, you teach it once, and it's done. Doesn't matter who would, if you will do it or someone else is doing it. And I think you're living in very busy times, and this is some form of helping people to have great companion dogs, where even though they're living busy life, because for example, there are easy cases for example, for the puppies, right? So if you have easy Labrador puppy, probably you could do it by yourself, right? There is not that much amount of skill and knowledge to required to train, laid back, easy dog. So maybe the only advantage is you're gonna save some time, and the dog will have experience of going somewhere. So later on, you will go for holidays, and your dog will be like, "Oh, I've been there, I did that, it was fun. I'm cool with it." So, you will prepare the dog for, let's say, staying somewhere else, right? Which is also very, very important. What I do, when I'm raising my puppy, I will always leave him like somewhere, even if I'm not going anywhere, so the dog can experience early on that he's not always with me, right? So later on I can leave my dog like and go for holiday. So this is a good experience. However, there are some difficult dogs, and the chances that like random person, random dog owner will acquire skill required to train this dog is very low. And we've been talking about podcasting before, and I said like I will do a lot of fuck ups because I'm just starting doing it. And if you just learning how to train the dog, you will do a lot of fuck ups as well.
Yeah,
right? No questions about that.
I had a few cases in my mind as you were explaining there that like came to mind. So firstly, you were saying about if you have a laid back puppy, maybe it's not such a big deal. But I think oftentimes what we find easy, some people find really hard, right? Like I had a case yesterday of a bulldog that was dog reactive, and the lady was like really stressed about it, and like it was easy. Like it was really easy, And actually we kind of had quite an honest conversation about it, and I think she was very relieved that I didn't think it was like the worst thing in the world, right? Yeah. So sometimes what we find easy, other people find hard, and that's totally legitimate, right? And so getting someone to help you with that is like totally fair enough, and you should not feel bad about that at all. But also when you were saying about, hey, some people just don't have the skill level. If you do have a really difficult dog, I remember one case that really stuck in my mind was an elderly couple that had a husky with a really bad case of resource guarding, had already hospitalized the owners, I think maybe even multiple times. And I just remember thinking, there's just no way these people are going to have the skill set to deal with this. And for me, that was maybe one of the cases I've had where it really felt the most like clearly that actually they really need someone that can do a lot of this for them, because just the like chasm between like where they're at with their skill and like where they need to be is so far from each other. And
then even with the good intentions, I don't think, let's say you are a dog trainer and right now you have to learn how to repair the car. What are the odds that you will get, like you will get that knowledge, right? And not to mention experience. It's very little. Have you got enough hours in the day to learn, to kind of find the way, and then to put that in practice? I don't know. I don't.
That's a really good analogy, because it's like I can probably watch some YouTube tutorials and learn how to change the bulbs, right?
Yeah.
But I'm not going to learn how to do something super complicated.
Yeah.
And,
like, especially with the...
And then, like, but I can learn how to maintain it, right? Like, if I get someone to fix it, then I can learn how to maintain it so it doesn't happen again.
Bring it for the oil change, right? But with the machines, it's like, at least it is a much, like it's a car. So, and the cars, they don't have like personality. So let's say you can technically learn how to fix your car, where with the dogs you have like different temperaments, and you should look at the dog in front of you, and you should be able to adjust. If the dog training would be just mechanical thing, and you wouldn't have to adjust to the dog in front of you, and very often to the owner. It's not only a dog, because I can see the owner with kind of tendencies or, like set of skills, and I cannot give that owner some tools, because that's not gonna happen, right? So we have to adjust to the dog and to the owner. So it's not so black and white. It's not like fixing car. But I think like most people, they don't have that much time to actually acquire that knowledge and get that experience in order to train more difficult cases.
Yeah, there's always, at the end of the day, there is always going to be a market for this kind of service. And as a dog trainer, as you've said, there's so many things that you can benefit from, learning to have more empathy for the client's dog, increasing your own skills because you're really forced to do what works, right? Because you're kind of like being judged upon that. And also when it comes to abusiveness, well, you're doing it. So you're not going to be abusive, right?
That's the thing, right?
And if you're really worried that, hey, maybe there's a lot of like bad actors in this sector, well, that should in some ways be even more of a motivation for you to go out there and do it and be a good person in that, offering that service
definitely.
that people can go to and trust.
Definitely. But also, right now we are just taking it off the ground, like our charity, and we are training assistance dogs. And I talked with Lila the other day that because we offer residential options, and the stay has a lot of stages and so on and so on. And like with the assistance dogs for children, it's like you have to first of all make this dog good companion, right? And then teach sets of skills required for the dog to be an assistance dog, right? Good assistance dog, like work with children and so on, right? So I feel like if you are a parent of like any sort of kind of the parent, you put so much time into raising your children that the skill required to train assistance dog, it's quite kind of big ask, right?
Massive ask. I was talking on my podcast, Dog Talk with Nick Benger.
Dog Talk with Nick Benger. Subscribe, sign in, like, share.
I was talking to Matthias Lenz, who is really involved in guide dog training, and he was talking about how they do everything they can to maximize success.
Mm-hmm.
They have their own breeding programs. They're selecting the best dogs. They are experienced guide dog trainers, and still not every single dog makes it. In fact, a lot of dogs don't make it to being a guide dog, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what are the chances that someone that is going somewhere that isn't selecting just for assistance dogs is choosing an off-breed, right? Like is not choosing a Labrador or a Golden Retriever, because people oftentimes do that. It's Labradors, isn't it? Guide dogs, not Golden Retrievers so much. Maybe crosses. But like, and they're not a professional dog trainer. They've never done this before. Like it's so stacked against them. And I can't tell you the amount of inquiries that we get from people that they've kind of like, oh, I've got a dog for, my child who has autism, and they're really trying to do all the like right things. And it's just going horribly wrong. I can't tell you how many inquiries I get like that.
I can imagine. So having in mind, I don't think, that option should be demonized. Of course, it can be done good and can be done wrong. But like it is helping a lot of people. And so that's really like my response to your accusations about
Not my accusations.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, let's train dogs.
Oh, this is going to be a short one, but yeah, we can do that.
All right, it's 34 minutes. It's not that short.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone, to tuning in, and leave only nice comments. Bye.